Welcome to the Alchemy Experience podcast, where transformation isn't just talked about, it's lived. I'm Erin, and around here, we're turning breakdowns into breakthroughs, pain into power, and survival into serious thriving. Whether I'm flying solo or vibing with a badass guest, we dive into all the things on health, creating beautiful relationships, and building wealth. We're keeping it real, raw, and ridiculously empowering. It gets a little juicy, a little bit wild, and super inspiring. This isn't just another podcast, it's your permission slip to evolve loud, proud, and on purpose. Let's go light the world on fire. We are back. We are on the topic of boundaries. And for those of you that don't know me, and just like stumbled upon me today, I am Erin. I will be here for the next half hour or so, kind of diving into specifics around boundaries. For those of you that are my OGs and have been here with me for the beginning of time, you have no idea how much it means to me to be on this journey together. And I love you so much for being here and talking all things life and mental health and growth. And it just means so much. So please let me know you're here so that I can give you the proper shout out either way to welcome you if you are new or to thank you and love up on you for being here. If you are new here, I just want to take a second. So I am a social worker by trade. I am a licensed therapist and a therapeutic coach, leading my clients through an experience that has a component of energy and psychology blended together to be able to assist you in your journey of healing and growth. And it's usually very unconventional and different than what you may have experienced in a different traditional setting. So that is what I do. I work with folks one-on-one. I work with folks in groups, both personally for their growth and also professionally. So very cool. Most amazing thing I have done in my life to date in this career of mine. So, yeah. So let's dive in. We're going to elaborate more. I do have a little bit of notes because I tend to like to share experiences and share some real life instances that I either have been a part of or have worked with clients on. And so I tend to veer a little bit. So I like to keep kind of condensed notes here to be able to be quick for you guys, whether you're on your lunch hour, listening to this on the car ride home. Sometimes it's really cool to just hear real life stories about this information, this knowledge, and be able to adapt it and tweak it to your own life. So let's start with today. We are going to really, I did this a couple years ago, about a year ago. I did another training around attachment styles, but I think it is something that we don't talk about enough. And I think it is so worthwhile anytime I bring it to the attention of my clients in session, and even professionally. Like, it's really important to have this information. It's important to know where you stand and maybe where your loved ones and those that you work with day to day, because they are your work family, where they stand within attachment. And so I'm going to go over attachment styles today. And that can help you really navigate what attachment style you are and kind of why you show up in the way you do at times with certain people and in certain situations. So before we dive into that, I want to share a bit about one of my amazing clients. They are, I'm trying to think of when we started working, maybe about a year we're going on that we've worked together. This client has struggled for many years. Hi, Sydney. So many years they have navigated a very enmeshed, codependent family dynamic. Now, if you're not incredibly sure what that means, think of enmeshed as in, you're not really sure where your relationship with one of your family members ends and the other begins, kind of thing. Codependency can be very dangerous when you basically are relying on each other in certain ways because we're not able to stand strong in who we are. And so it can be really dangerous when we're trying to navigate personal growth, when we're trying to make decisions that are ultimately life-changing. If we are codependent on somebody for that, it can really be detrimental to our growth and our ability to be safe, whether emotionally, physically, mentally, any of that. And codependency can show up in romantic relationships, in friendships, at jobs. It can really be anywhere. And sometimes when we're in it, it's really hard to even know that we're in it. So with that said, this client of mine didn't even know. He had been in a very enmeshed, very codependent, multiple siblings, very tumultuous upbringing in way of the parental dynamics, right? And we're not going to go deeply into belief systems today. That's for another day, but it created a set of belief systems for him and what he thought a marriage should look like, what he thought a friendship should look like, what he thought just a relationship should look like in any sense of the word. And so it really skewed his ability to set some clear boundaries. When you have enmeshed relationships, there's really no boundaries, right? It's very kind of intertwined. And it can cause friction, but then there can be some dynamics of manipulation. And so oftentimes we don't even know that we're being manipulated when we've been conditioned to believe that this is just how life is, right? We're very codependent. And there's fear there in becoming strong, independent, because we're fear of losing that person or in losing all the things that may come along with losing that person. So, whether it be a home or finances or, other friends, support, we feel very isolated. And so therefore we don't pull away and we just continue to depend on that person. So, and in return, they want us to depend on them, right? They need that to kind of feel strong and secure in who they are. So there's a lot of parts. There's a lot of moving parts to this. But with that said, this client, it took us some time, probably several months, to kind of uncover for him. Now, I kind of noticed what was going on, but again, it's helping the individual through therapy, through coaching them in understanding attachment and understanding the pillars of our life, which I'll get into in a minute. And when we have a foundation of understanding that, we can start to kind of remove the cloud and see, holy cow, I've really been manipulated and I've been, really engaging in this enmeshed environment for so long. When we can remove ourselves from it and kind of see it from a different view, we can then allow ourselves to heal and forgive and start to create new boundaries and new standards that will then allow us to step into a new version of us. But this is so scary, guys, right? Like creating a whole new version of you. You're trailblazing, through the forest that is, you're used to this one trail and now you're trying to go, off-roading, and it can be terrifying. So a lot of emotion came with this, a lot of fear for him. And oh my gosh, how is my life going to look now without this person? If I need to separate, emotionally and physically from them for a while. And it was, what does that look like? How will that feel? How can we do that? Right? Very tangible things, but also just preparing for the emotion to come while still having that emotion from understanding what we've been through our whole life. So it caused this client's marriage to unravel. It caused sibling relationships to erode. It caused his sense of self to crumble, which at one point was incredibly hard. However, when we got through that and moved through that feeling, not to get over it, but moved through the feeling, it really set the stage for this client to be like, wow, I can rebuild myself. I don't have to be that version of me. I get to decide who I'm becoming. And I often refer to this as the void stage. This is something I've worked through in myself and worked with my mentors on as well, is there's this void stage where we're not quite who we were. We've uncovered this version of us that's like, holy crap, I've been manipulated, or that's not who I want to be anymore. This is not what I thought my life was going to be. But we're not quite who we want to be yet, right? We haven't quite stepped into this version that we can start to see emerging. So we're in this void stage. And I like to refer to that as, like a reptile or a snake shedding its skin, right? Like if you've ever seen it, first of all, I haven't. It's pretty remarkable and it's pretty creepy and weird. If you've not seen it, go YouTube it. It's miraculous. But these reptiles, these snakes, right? Like they shed the skin and it looks painful. It looks uncomfortable. They have to maneuver in ways for it to peel off. It can be hours to days that this is happening for them, right? For our time, it could be hours to weeks to months to years that we're in this void stage of really trying to emerge into a new version, right? And so it's painful, it's uncomfortable, it's not fun, right? It's not an exciting time. But what it is us intentionally removing the bricks that we've built up to really get to know ourselves. We're removing that armor. We're stripping down to this layer and really getting to our heart and soul, our core of who we are, so that we can emerge into this new version. So good old skin molting. Yeah, pretty gross, but pretty also like just cool, right? Like it's such a good analogy. If we can really have a picture of what's happening to us, sometimes our brain can work through that process a little bit easier. So with that, we were able to find this new power that he had. He was able to really express finding peace. He came in one day and was just like, everything around me feels like it's crumbling, but I feel such peace. I'm like, yeah, that means you're finding you. Like the world is spinning, but you're really stripped down to this, like, but I know who I'm becoming. So it's not as scary anymore. It's not as wrong or bad or fearful, because we actually went through the process that we were so afraid of. We were so afraid of stripping down. When we got to that, it's not as scary anymore, because it's like, oh, here we are, right? It's like we always build up the fear. And then when we go do the thing, we're like, oh, that wasn't that bad, right? Like it's brutal. But when we get to the other side, we're like, but I did it and I didn't die. So like, I'm okay. So we're rewiring our brain to believe in ourselves. And, while he was building that strength, while he was finding that, he was really uncovering and starting to identify and strengthen this pillar of sense of self, right? So what I like to do is look, if you think of a car, the four wheels on the car, right? That's another analogy. Or I'd like to look at like four pillars that holds us up of who we are. We've got our sense of self, which is really what he needed to get to, because his sense of self was just non-existent. He was just existing through life and doing what everybody else thought he needed to do or who he needed to be, right? So the sense of self, which is oftentimes the hardest one to navigate, our social circle, our home life, our intimate partnership, and then our career. So those are the four main pillars of our life that make us whole, right? And if you think of like, another analogy is like the wheels on a car, right? If one is punctured, if we have a flat, we got to give that a little bit of attention. The car's going to keep moving, but it's not going to move smoothly, right? And once we're fully whole, when all of those are really fully strong, that's where we can move through life in a more stable path, right? Even if we get kicked off a little bit and wobbly, like those pillars are going to hold us up. Now, the most important piece is that foundation, right? If there's cracks in that foundation, eventually we're going to crumble, right? Eventually that's going to be uneven. And that's oftentimes when people come to me for therapy or in coaching or even in the professional setting, right? Like they could have all the other pillars of their life can be really strong. But if they're like, I'm not feeling whole, in my career. My passion isn't there, my purpose, right? That's just wobbly. It's just not there. I want to find my purpose in my career. A lot of times that's when I work with professionals on either building a business or building the skill set to be able to pursue the passion that they want within their career. I just want to stop for a second. Sydney's saying, I struggle with severe anticipation anxiety, kind of similar. Yeah. It's never as bad as we think it's going to be, ever, right? Like, ever. We always make it up in our head that it's going to be this catastrophe, that it's going to be this wild and crazy thing. And then we go and do the thing and we're like, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. But that anxiety of it, right? The anxiety of just starting is the key, right? It's when we're moving, when we're grinding it out, when we're doing the thing, we're moving, right? We can see progress, even if it's tiny, tiny bit. But to start takes so much energy, right? And so that's the key. It's that anxiety just to start. But I agree with you. We all feel that way. And I think over various different things, we might have more anxiety than others, and depending on what triggers us more. So keeping those 4 pillars of our life in mind, right? I'm going to dive a little bit into attachment styles here, because I think when we have certain attachment styles, it can cause a codependency, right? It can cause it to be difficult to know where one person ends and the other begins, right? It can really cause us that, if you think in our social pillar, right? If we're codependent on a certain friend, if we have this like anxious attachment style that we're worried about them not being our friend anymore, we're worried about losing them as a friend, right? We're going to develop this really anxious attachment style with that individual person. And so we're going to have very loose boundaries, and we may allow that person to take advantage of us, so, and I'll get into that a little deeper in a minute, but just knowing that there are different pillars of our life where attachment styles can kind of tweak depending. So let's dive into attachment styles briefly. I'm going to kind of go quick through this because I think it's important that you have it. And then we'll kind of recap. We'll do some just some questions that you guys can journal out for yourself to identify really what your attachment style is. And then we'll wrap up. So secure attachment, it's what we're all aiming for, right? We're all aiming for a beautiful, securely attached individual whole being with everybody else. It's like, where the stars align and we're just totally at peace with all the people in our life, which this is hard. And we can see the needle move as we grow and as we kind of intentionally work towards this secure attachment. So what it means to be securely attached to anyone or anything, right, is that we're able to handle conflict. We're able to think both of ourselves and the other person and their needs while not minimizing our needs, right? Or vice versa. And you understand wholeheartedly that you are loved and deserving of love, no matter what the other person says, thinks, feels, behaves, right? That means we are securely attached. Okay. So this means that we're very accepting of boundaries. We're comfortable around other people's boundaries and around our own boundaries. Like we're comfortable setting them. We're comfortable understanding other people's or listening to other people's boundaries. We value boundaries. We can be in direct conflict with somebody else in trying to establish boundaries, right? So it's having hard conversations and being comfortable with that, right? I know that sounds kind of crazy, but it's like being comfortable with being uncomfortable. I have hard conversations, guys, all day long, right? Like client just left my office. All I do is confront people, not in a negative way. So I just had this conversation with the client earlier in that we say, oh, people will tell you all the time, oh, I hate confrontation. I'm non-confrontational. I hate being confrontational. We look at confrontation as a negative thing. If we can reroute our brain to look at confrontation as a neutral thing, right? Confrontation just is. We make it negative or positive. So
I have confrontation with my clients all day long. I'm confronting their way of thinking. I am intentionally asking questions and getting them to think in a different way, right? I'm confronting their thoughts and their behaviors currently so that they can think different and behave different, right? Because that's ultimately why they're here. They want to change their life or their lifestyle or where they're at in any one of those pillars of life. So confrontation is not a bad thing. If we are intentionally going up to somebody and having a confrontation that we know is going to end in a negative outcome, right? Well, then, yeah, we're putting a negative spin on that. But my daily life is having confrontation with people here in my office or on, the socials, to just think differently. So it's not bad. I think it's incredibly positive and incredibly healthy. So it's how we approach it, right? And so when we're secure in our attachment, we can look at conflict and confrontation positively. That is being really secure in our boundaries, right? I know that no matter what anybody's going to say to me, I'm very secure that my intention is coming from a place of being healthy and moving forward, not destroying a relationship and getting in conflict just to get in conflict, right? So that is really secure attachment. It's really having very clear boundaries for yourself. I don't do that. I don't do this. I don't hang there. I don't go there. I do this. This is how I behave. This is the standard I set for myself, right? Getting very clear on those types of things. So that's secure attachment. Anxious attachment. This is where we fear that people are going to abandon us. So we're kind of in this, you may not feel it all the time, but we're in this consistent emotional state. Our fight or flight is constantly activated, that we really feel like nobody cares for us, even when there's no evidence, right? And a lot of this is conditioned as kids, right? Our fight or flight is just constantly, oh, this person's not gonna like me if I don't do this, or if I behave this way, if I don't behave this way. We're in this constant, like, trying to people please, over committing to people. We struggle to say no. We struggle to confront others if they've crossed a boundary, right? So if somebody commits to us and then doesn't show up, but we don't call them out on that. We don't tell them that we're upset about that because they've crossed the boundary, but we're afraid that if we confront that it's going to push them away. But then that actually reinforces them to continue to behave that way, right? They're taking advantage of us. I think one of the most important things is that we attract relationships where we get mistreated, right? We allow that to continue. And this actually motivates us to try to earn the love of somebody, right? So it's such this very weird pattern where we allow people to cross the boundary out of fear of pushing them away or losing them. We're anxious about that. And it almost reinforces our brain that we have to continue to show up even more so for them and overcommit to earn their love, right? So it's a mind screw. Really is. And in order to break that, we have to realize that we have to set that boundary. We have to set that standard. We have to say, no more am I going to accept you to not show up when you say you will. And then when they don't show up when they say they will, there's a consequence for it, right? We then don't overcommit. We then don't show up, right? So this is really hard, especially if you've been in a relationship with somebody for a really long time, that you might be enmeshed, that you might have a codependency, right? And out of fear of what you might lose in standing up for yourself. So that's an anxious attachment. The opposite of that is avoidant. Now, a lot of times people think if they're fight or flight and they're more of a flighter, that they think that's avoidant attachment. That's not necessarily the case, right? So a lot of people shut down or run away because their fight or flight is activated rather than like stay in it and fight and argue, right? That's not necessarily avoidant attachment. So avoidant attachment is more of when people fear of getting too close to somebody because they're afraid of getting hurt, So it's not that they run away necessarily, it's that they might put up some walls. They might not truly let you in to who they are. Um, Ultimately, what's happening is they don't trust themselves enough out of fear of getting hurt, that they're going to be able to get through that hurt, right? So, this is sometimes where you feel disconnected in a relationship, even a friendship, right? Where you might sense the energy of this person just, they're not being forthcoming with you. They're not really sharing. You might say to a friend, "Yeah, like, how are things going?" They're like, "Oh, good, good, things are good." And if you're like, "Are you sure?" "Yep, things are good." But meanwhile, their life is a hot mess. And they might share tidbits of it that you're like, there's more going on. I have a very close friend of mine that this has been something that's occurred, where I've had to kind of step in and have the confrontation of just like, you're not okay. And it's okay. You don't have to share that with me, but together we need to get you support so that you have an outlet, because this is not okay. And I could tell, and luckily, I have that edge of therapy to be able to have that conversation. But I think we fear so much that we're like nitpicking at people or trying to get them to tell us stuff that we don't call them out. We're not their mirror, we're not their blind side, especially in romantic partnerships, to be like, something's off. It's okay if you don't want to talk about it, but I'm here when you're ready, because I know that there's something deeper, and I just put up a slide on my posting a day or two ago about some phrases you can say either to somebody or yourself around how to talk through some of this, right? When somebody's trying to get more information from you and you're not ready to talk, you can say, "I do want to talk about it, but I'm not ready," right? Or on the flip side, say, I don't know if you're ready to talk about it, but I can sense energetically there's something more going on, but I'm here. I'm here to help you talk through it. I'm here to be the person you talk to, or to find somebody that you can talk to. So there are ways around that, right? There are ways around to talk to somebody that's got this avoidant attachment. A lot of times they will set very, very hard boundaries. So again, an anxious attachment, barely any boundaries, right? It's like that, everybody come on in, everybody step all over me, take advantage of me, all of that. On the opposite side, you have avoidant, like such strict boundaries that it's hard to even get to know the person. You see this with folks that might be in the military, that might, you know, have first responding, that they can be very kind of closed off and avoidant in allowing people in and getting to know other people. It's hard to break that. It does take a certain person. It does take a certain skill set to be able to talk through some of this with people, but it can be done. But again, it's getting the right person to help navigate that. So lastly, the fourth attachment style is disorganized. So exactly what it means. It's disorganized. It's not anxious. It's not avoidant. They flip-flop between both. A lot of times you will see this in folks that have been abused as children, and they will flip-flop. So it's this like duality of wanting to connect so bad, but the fear of it, right? So it's not like, I'm an open book, come on in, cross the boundaries, and it's not this completely closed off. It's this in-between stage where they might let you in and then all of a sudden shut you out. And that's very hard to navigate when you're in any type of friendship or romantic relationship, because you think there's something wrong with you. They're like, are they mad at me? Did I do something wrong? Or it's really them trying to figure out that boundary for themselves. These folks, you'll see, like, they'll ghost on you. They'll show up to all the things for a period of time, and then all of a sudden they're like non-existent. It's like, did they fall off the face of the earth? Are they okay? And they will put such a hard boundary up all of a sudden, So this again it's not you. It's you have done nothing wrong in that, right? This is them trying to navigate where that boundary is for themselves. As a friend or family on the other side of that, it's really working on your own boundaries with that person that's going to make the difference. Because when you set the boundary, when you set the standard there, they will meet it. Right. And again, boundaries are not to close other people out. It's just to protect us, And so when somebody has a disorganized attachment and their boundaries are just kind of all over the place, it's on us to just get really clear what ours are, and that will make the difference. So I hope that was helpful. And that might give you some insight into, what you are, what other people in your family or in your social circle or in your close tribe might be, and kind of give you some insight to, oh, okay, like they've gone through some things. This causes them to have this anxious attachment with me. And again, we can kind of switch depending on the person that we're communicating with, right? And really our goal is ultimately to work towards that secure attachment, but it's not up to the other person, it's up to us. So a lot of times I'll hear, like I had this client I was referring to earlier, well, if they just, and it's like, we can't control other people. And nor do I really want to. I really don't want to have that power. There are times where I'm like, I wish I could take my kids and be like, just do the thing. But like, right, we can't. The only thing we can control is ourselves. And so if we can get really deep on what is my attachment style with this person? Am I secure with them? Or am I anxious with them? Am I avoidant with them? Right. And sometimes, they will say that you have a default, which I will agree with, but we can often kind of switch what our attachment style is with the specific person. Right. So, for a very long time, I had a very anxious attachment style with my significant other. Right. And I would have this just crossing of boundaries, and then it would be very confusing for him when I would be upset and not be able to set a clear expectation or a clear standard of this is what I need, right? But when I got good at understanding what is it, who am I, what is the standard I'm operating at, and I was very clear to him, like, this is what I need, he could meet that, right? And so instead of me fearing that he was going to just leave if I said that, right? I got really deep with myself and I'm just like, no, this is how it's going to be. And now we're able to communicate on a much different level. Now there's other things that have contributed to that, but understanding my own anxious attachment and my fear of this like chase that I felt like I had to create. I had to manifest chaos just to earn love, to then be reassured that he loved me, to then manifest chaos, right? It was just this craziness. And when I understood that, now does it still happen sometimes? Sure. Do I still react out of my subconscious programming? Sure. But it doesn't happen that much anymore. And he'll call me out and be like, what's happening? What's happening? Right. And so we have a different understanding and a different ability to communicate now. Again, there's a lot of other work that went into that, but understanding your attachment style to a specific person is so key. And it's gotten me much closer to feeling more secure, to honoring his boundaries. When he is upset, he needs a minute, right? He needs to process, and I process way quicker. Right. And so I would be like, but we need to talk about, we need to talk about it. We need to talk. I needed to honor his boundary. I needed to honor and respect that he needs a minute and I need to take a minute, And so it's really starting to learn, okay, I can honor my boundaries and his at the same time. And that's secure, right? I am secure in the fact that he doesn't not love me. He's not leaving. There's not a whole fight. There's not a whole issue. He just has a boundary. That's all. Right. And when I started to learn that, I could feel more secure. So that's just a romantic way of looking, like in a romantic partnership way of looking at it. You can look at this in many different ways, with friendships, with coworkers, with whomever. Okay. So now let me look at time here. Okay. I'm going to try to wrap this up quickly for you guys. But now that we can see where we might fit in to which attachment style we are, again, if you're not really sure, feel free to reach out. Feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to a coach or a therapist that has background and knowledge and education on this to help support you in navigating. Like, if you're not quite sure, you might actually have some disorganized, right? But if you're like, I think I'm primary this, I might have this, but I'm primary, just go with your gut on it, what you think you're primary at, and start navigating and looking for this and start really playing around with, oh yeah, I reacted that way because I'm afraid they're going to leave. Or I reacted that way because I'm shutting down because they're getting too close to that threshold of crossing the boundary. So the first step in getting real with ourselves and knowing this attachment style is, where do we most fit in, right? Which I just went over. And then, are we making choices that are in our best interest, even when it's hard, right? Are we making life choices that are in our best interest to hold true to our standard and boundaries, even when something's hard, even when it means we might disappoint somebody else, even when it means when we are holding somebody else to a standard that they're not ready to be at yet, right? So even when it's hard, are we doing this? Or are we going to lower our standard because it's too hard to stay up here, right? So just play with that a little bit. Just reflect. It doesn't mean you're wrong. Doesn't mean you're doing anything that's wrong. Just reflect. This is the first step in really getting real with this and understanding where we fit into all of this and how we can start to really master our boundaries and hold true to them. Are we people pleasing? And are we leaving ourselves depleted? So those are key things to go through, maybe even this next couple of weeks of taking note daily. I do a gratitude practice. I do at certain times. I haven't done this in a while because I'm not really tracking anything right now. But when I'm trying to track certain things and find patterns of behavior or thoughts, and for me in my life, I will really be like, today, October 4th. What happened today? Was I people pleasing today? Just reflecting, like, do I feel really depleted? Do I feel tired? Like, what happened today to lead to that? Is it an outlier of a day, or is it just something that is really deep rooted in my attachment style, right? It's kind of looking, did I not set boundaries today? Kind of just reflecting on the day, reflecting on how we're feeling and how we're showing up for ourselves. And are we struggling to stick to a daily structure and limits, right? Are we holding ourselves to a standard that, like, if this is the best version of me, this is my highest self, if this is the standard I set, where are we falling within that, right? Are we exceeding that expectation every single day? Well, then maybe we need to set a higher standard for ourselves, right? Maybe we're lowering our standard for other people, but we actually really need to be up here, right? Or, are we just not setting any standard? Are we kind of just figuring it out day to day? And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just reflecting that. It's recognizing, okay, I am approaching every day differently. Some days I can't get out of bed, and some days I have, the best day ever where I'm out and about all day. It's like, what's the standard I want to have then? Where do I want to fall on a continuum consistently? Sustainability, right? Like being able to sustain this way of life, this standard. And just taking stock in that, right? Like, am I struggling to stick with something? So again, we set boundaries for ourselves and to protect ourselves, not to keep others out. It's really just to protect who we are. It's that when we get rid of that layer of skin, it's that new one that's coming, and we emerge in a different light. We're at a different level. We're at a new standard, and we're going to only allow being treated at that standard by everybody else. So boundaries keep us safe and healthy. They keep us running smoothly. Remember the wheels on the car. We want to just be moving smoothly through life. And if one of those pillars is losing air, we need to give it the energy it needs. And if it's a social pillar that's really we're struggling, then we need to look at our attachment styles within that pillar. If it's our romantic partnership, what's our attachment style here? Is there something we can tweak to raise or lower our standards so that we can feel more securely attached and we can build that pillar back up? Okay. I think that's it, guys. I know that was a lot. We want to identify our limits. What are our goals? Set a goal for ourselves. If we can set a goal for ourselves and start to really keep ourselves to that standard consistently and sustain that, right? We're going to start to trust ourselves. We're going to start to emerge into this new level. We're going to be able to hold secure attachments, right? Even if it's just, even if it's I'm not going to go anywhere today, I'm going to get out of bed and I'm going to get dressed every day for the next 30 days so that I can feel into myself, right? That is the new standard that you're going to set for yourself. That is now going to, that's the expectation. Like everybody else has to meet you at that level. You're not going to go down to, I'm going to lay in bed all day and not do anything. Obviously, if you're sick, right? Okay. But it's like, this is the standard I hold for myself. And this is what I'm going to only allow other people to treat me as, right? Like, this is it right here. Check your pillars of life. Where can we start to strengthen? What's one that we can start to strengthen right now? If your romantic partnership is on point and you're feeling really good about that, amazing. If your career path, if you're like, I'm really feeling passionate about what I'm doing at my job, fantastic. Social circle is on point. If you're like, you know what? I really just feel like I'm not consistent in my fitness journey or in my health journey or in my with my kids. I want to, or in being present with myself or in taking time to myself. Well, this is where we start then. This sense of self. Let's find a deeper sense of self. Let's really work on that. Let's hold ourselves to a specific standard for a period of time, set a goal, work on that pillar, right? If there's a pillar with our career, everything else is good, but our career is like, I hate what I'm doing. I don't like it, right? Well, who do we want to be? What's our attachment to what we're doing right now? Are we securely attached? Most likely not. We're anxious attached to what we're doing right now in our career. We're fearful that if we leave that career, our whole life is going to crumble, right? But what if we left? What could that look like? What would that best self look like? What would we be doing? Right? So it's really starting to walk back and visualize how we can have all of those pillars, all of those wheels on the car going smoothly. What would that take? What would that look like? What's the best version of us driving down the highway, feeling positive, feeling strong? And which one can we give attention to right now that's going to help all the others run smoothly? That's all I got for you guys. Of course, if there is more that you want to dive into, I am here. Please reach out. Check my posts. I'm going to continue to do some boundaries work for the next, month or so here on this quick pit stop. This is going to be the topic. This is what people wanted. This is what I put out into our community here that people wanted more about. So this is what I'm diving into. There are going to be other things coming along the way. But if you want more, reach out to somebody who specializes in this, right? Reach out to a licensed therapist if you're looking to really dive in. Reach out to somebody who is a specialist in coaching, in life coaching, in business coaching, if you're looking for some more career path stuff. Really navigating you through this subconscious program. We have so much back here underneath the surface that comes through that we're not even aware of. And it takes somebody that's trained and that has this education and background to be able to help you pull that out safely and feel confident in building and filling in those cracks in your foundation and building that stronger and mastering those boundaries for yourself. So please let me know if you're interested in working with me in any kind of capacity, or if you want some more information I can guide you towards. I have so many people in my world that do this stuff that are amazing. If I'm not the right fit, I promise you there is somebody in my world that is. And we really want to make sure that we make the world a better place with this. So thank you for being here. I'm every day working on my boundaries, and I know that understanding my attachment to different people, places, and things has been huge for me. So I hope this was helpful for you. Feel free to share this. We will be back next week. So I will post, again, a reminder on the next set of quick pit stop around boundaries, the next level that we're going to talk about. But until then, guys, thanks for being here. Go set the world on fire today. I love you. See ya.
Thanks for tuning in to the Alchemy Experience. If this episode lit something up inside you, go ahead and share it with someone who's ready to rise too. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with me online on all social media at the Alchemy Experience. Because transformation loves company, and together we all rise. And hey, don't just survive this week. Thrive like you frickin' mean it. Let's go let it up. Talk soon.